All right, we back at it. We back at it. All right, thank you for your time. Like, subscribe. Most importantly, pay attention. So, this video is called X-Men with a question mark. X-Men? Now, I don't know if you ever taken the time to ask yourself what exactly is the meaning of quote unquote X-Men, right? Um, Obviously, we understand the basic and general concept of the title and of the whole series, of the cartoons. It's the mutants, and they are fighting to save the world, right, and humanity itself. But specifically, the X part of the title, right, the X-Men, like, why can't they just be just men, right? It always struck me, and when I grew up watching X-Men, I was a big fan, still am. I still watch other movies. Well, especially growing up, I never sat back and thought to myself, what is so significant about the X? Like, what makes them X-Men, right? Well, through my, my pursuit of understanding and most importantly, balance. Um, you know, I have jumped down certain rabbit holes of information to where I would see things that are usually, kind of dead in our face, but then also I'll see things that have been subliminally hid from us to the point where we don't really understand even the origins of certain things, and we just take them for what we're told. For example, just the whole concept of X-Men, every kid that grew up watching X-Men, not one kid questions and asks themselves, well, I can't say not one of them, but I don't see it. Personally, I don't see any kid or anybody, even in my age, I wasn't questioning the fact, what does X-Men mean? Like, what does the X mean? It's like, obviously, a lot of people will try to correlate and associate the X with just being mutants. Like, that just means mutant, but there's more to that, obviously, which is why I'm doing this video, and which is why you're seeing the picture in front of you. But specifically, like I said, is that this information being dead in your face, yet we don't see it. You see what I'm saying? So, and that is, it also stems to a lot of the stuff that I talk about in regards to the systematic kind of discrimination and the systematic control that has been um, solidified through time. And it's been done through religion, it's been done through politics, it's been done through every level of being to change what it actually, what things actually are and what they actually stand for. For example, we know for a fact, and we live the fact that the earth, that nature, is not only a maternal energy, but it is a creational type of energy. It's a reproductional type of energy, which is why we always associate, mother country, mother tongue, mother nature. That's why we associate all these things with the woman, is because of the reproductional attribute, the reproductional attribute that these things hold, and which is essentially the superpower, right? I mean, if you think about it, Mother Nature, when we look at it as Mother Nature, how nature as an ecosystem is constantly giving and creating, that system alone is something that a woman does. A woman creates a baby. You see what I'm saying? It's the same thing with plants. It's all a maternal, and it's all a creation type of concept, but it's always tied and geared towards the woman. Why? Is because the woman is the one that has the power of creating. The woman is the one that has the power of creating a freaking womb and housing a human being in it for 9 months, giving it nutrients. It's growing hair and fingernails and eyes and organs. Only a woman can do that. Only Earth can produce vegetation. Only Earth can produce these things. And it's like, for us to not like specify that and to not stress that, is not only a shame, but like I said, it speaks to this patriarchal system that's been set in place, because it's as if the woman has been purposely disregarded. You know, if you look at any books of major religions, not one woman has a book that speaks to the gods or whatever, apostle or prophet that's in a Bible or a Quran or a Torah. There's not one woman. Yet no man would be able to write no book if it wasn't for a woman, because he wouldn't be alive. I don't want to say every, the major religions that run this country, the three major religions that run this country, the Jews, the Christians, and the Muslims, all three religions, patriarchal religions. There is no woman even at the side of their God. There's not even a woman God to represent the matriarchal trait and the matriarchal characteristics of this earth and of us. There is no woman birthing these religions. It's nothing but men. And I've never heard of a man giving birth to anything. The only thing a man does is assist birth. So for us to not include and specify and stress the most important thing of our existence and creation, from us being human beings and from nature, it's even itself, for us to not do this, like I said, it's only being done purposely to disregard it, because it's all over. It's all over. The examples are all over the place. And specifically X-Men. X-Men is one of the best examples that I could show you guys in regards to how important the woman is, and why there has been, like I said, a systematic strategy and endeavors to not only withhold her from history, but to completely write her out, when none of us would exist without her. Another example, in the Christian religion, it is said that the first human beings were Adam and Eve, that a man just made out of clay. They can't give that credit to a woman, so they gave it to a man making these people out of clay. But see now, just like I always say, how the truth will always rise like the sun every single day, the same way the truth will always rise in these lies that people say. As big as a lie can be, I can still show you the truth within it. When Christians say that Adam and Eve were the first people on earth and a man put them together out of clay, a man god, that is, a patriarchal energy, right? A god who's considered a him, a he. He's the one that made Adam and Eve. So are we saying? No, I don't want to say we, because I damn sure ain't saying that. So this is what Christians are saying, which is here comes the fucking hole. So the Christians are saying that the first human beings were walking around Earth with no belly buttons. What type of fucking human being has no belly button? Have you ever seen a human being walking around with no belly button? I know I haven't. You know why? It's because every person on this earth came out of a womb. And a womb is where you are connected to your mother through an umbilical cord. So when you were born, that umbilical cord is severed. So according to Christian ideology and according to the Bible, the first people on earth didn't even have fucking belly buttons. Tell me right now, if you ever see somebody without a belly button, please let me know. And if you do, I'm gonna tell you now, they are not fucking human, because human beings all have belly buttons. Human beings come out of wombs. I don't know what the fuck Adam and Eve was then, because they damn sure weren't human. What the fuck were they if they didn't have a belly button? What the fuck were they if they didn't have a belly button? You need to ask yourself this. If you follow Jesus or whatever Bible you read, ask yourself, why would Adam and Eve not have a belly button? And how strange is that the first people on earth don't have belly buttons, but then the rest of us do? What type of fucking nonsense is that? So that speaks to this picture that I'm showing you guys right here. You see the X chromosome. Now the X chromosome, we're going to break down the X chromosome and the Y chromosome in regards to what they are, their functionalities. But I wanted to give you guys a visual kind of concept before we go any deeper in regards to what the X chromosome is, which is the X chromosome is the chromosome that largely represents the woman. See, the woman has that we all have two sets. Now the woman has XX, we have XY, right? Now what makes us different is the Y. Now I'm going to break down why that is so, but then most importantly, you know, I want us to use common sense, people, because unfortunately common sense is not as common as it used to be. And so when I speak to you, I want to entertain your common sense, and then you entertain your intellectual sense by, like I said, you know, looking at what I'm presenting, and then studying it and researching it. You know what I'm saying? Like, go and check on what I'm talking about. I'm not here to do your homework for you. I'm just presenting this so you can do your homework and so you can see what I'm seeing and verify it yourself. And then if you go deeper, let me know. But if you are diving in and you're not going as deep as me, then don't waste my goddamn time. You see what I'm saying? But if you're gonna go deeper than me, then you better make sure that you're telling me something that is past this, not before it. So, with that being said, visually, let's just look at these chromosomes. Look at the X chromosome, right? Look how full it is, and it's a full X, right? And then look at the fucking Y chromosome. Why does the Y chromosome look fucking smoked out and ready to go to rehab? What the fuck is wrong with the Y chromosome? Okay, my point being is this. There not only is obviously a visual difference, but you can see that one looks more intact and full than the other, right? One looks more depleted than the other. The Y chromosome looks more depleted than the X chromosome. So just visually, you can tell that one is more functional and put together than the fucking other. Just looking at that picture right there tells you which chromosome, like if you didn't know shit about chromosomes and somebody put those two pictures up and they said, which one do you want? You damn sure ain't gonna take the Y chromosome, because the Y chromosome look like somebody done took some bites out of it. You see what I'm saying? So I just want to start there. And then now let's break down what is the X and Y chromosome. Okay, so the X chromosome is one of the two sex chromosomes in humans. The other is the Y chromosome. The sex chromosomes form one of the 23 pairs of human chromosomes in each cell. Now, the X chromosome spans about 155 million DNA building blocks and represents approximately 5% of the total DNA in cells. Okay? Now, each person normally has one pair of sex chromosomes in each cell. Females have two X chromosomes, while males have one X and one Y chromosome. Early in embryonic development, females, one of the two X chromosomes, is randomly and permanently inactivated in cells other than egg cells. Now, this phenomenon is called X inactivation or ionization. Now, X inactivation ensures that females, like males, have one functional copy of the X chromosome in each body cell. Because X inactivation is random, in normal females, the X chromosome inherited from the mother is active in some other cells, and the X chromosome inherited from the father is active in other cells. Now, some genes on the X chromosome escape X inactivation. Many of these genes are located at the ends of each arm of the X chromosome in areas known as the pseudo-autosomal regions. Although many genes are unique to the X chromosome, genes in the pseudo-autosomal regions are present in both sex chromosomes. As a result, men and women have two functional copies of these genes. Now, many genes in the pseudo-autosomal regions are essential for normal development. Identifying genes on each chromosome is an active area of genetic research. Now, because researchers use different approaches to predict the number of genes on each chromosome, the estimated number of genes varies. The X chromosome likely contains 800 to 900 genes that provide instructions for making proteins. Now, that's important. Y'all remember that. The X chromosome likely contains 800 to 900 genes that provide instructions for making proteins. These proteins perform a variety of different roles in the body. So I'm going to say it one more time. The X chromosome likely contains 800 to 900 genes that provide instructions for making proteins. These proteins perform a variety of different roles in the body. All right? So that is just a quick breakdown of the X chromosome. So now let's move on to the Y chromosome. And don't worry, I'll jump back and forth so we can compare descriptions. So now the Y chromosome is one of the two sex chromosomes in humans. The other is the X chromosome, of course. Now the sex chromosomes form one of the 23 pairs of human chromosomes in each cell. Now, the Y chromosome spans more than 59 million building blocks of DNA base pairs and represents almost 2% of the total DNA in cells. So, boom, right there. That's the first point. The first point in regards to me affirming, and this is just another way of telling you that the X chromosome and the Y chromosome, which one is more powerful, which one is more put together, that just tells us right there. And I'm going to go back to it. I just read right here that the Y chromosome spans more than 59 million building blocks of DNA base pairs and represents almost 2% of the total DNA in cells. Now, let's see what I already read it, but now let's go back and see how many building blocks the X chromosome spans. The X chromosome spans about 155 million DNA building blocks and represents approximately 5% of the total DNA in cells. So, once again, I'm going to go back to the picture. Now, the first thing I said was just looking at the picture using common sense, we can understand which chromosome is more functional, is more put together, and which chromosome is healthier, right? Just looking at this picture tells you. And just for people who don't understand, or just to make sure people who don't know, the X chromosome is the one that's mainly in women. We both have X's, but the Y chromosome is dominant in men, the X chromosome is dominant in women. So with that being said, I was explaining the fact that visually, it even tells you which one is healthier, right? So now, if you don't believe it visually, then this will tell you right here that in regards to the chromosome DNA building blocks, the X chromosome has 155 million building blocks that represent 5% of the total DNA in cells, while the Y chromosome only has 59 million building blocks and it only represents 2% of DNA in cells. So right there is telling you what chromosome is playing the most important and the most efficient role in cell production and construction. So right there, that tells you, okay? Now let's go a little deeper. Let's go a little deeper. All right? Let's go a little deeper here. Let's go a little deeper. So another one was The X chromosome likely contains 800 to 900 genes that provide instructions for making proteins, right? Now, let's look at the Y chromosome and see how many genes it carries. The Y chromosome, so the Y chromosome carries 50 to 60 genes that provide instructions for making protein. The X chromosome contains 800 to 900 genes that provide instructions for making proteins. One more time. The X chromosome, which is the woman dominant chromosome, contains 800 to 900 genes that provide instructions for making proteins. The Y chromosome only contains 50 to 60 genes that provide instructions for making proteins. So tell me, guys, which chromosome is more efficient and giving more detailed instruction on making protein? The Y chromosome that has 50 to 60 genes, or the X chromosome that has 800 to 900 genes? So right there, again, that shows you the it shows you the lack of in the Y chromosome. It shows you the depletion that is going on in the Y chromosome. So my point is that at one point in time, this is what I think. This is based on my studies and my research, is that the Y chromosome you're looking at actually used to be an X, and it's been depleting ever since. And I don't know how it is, but it's degenerating itself. I don't know how, but it's degenerating. Now, like I said, I'm digging, folks. I'm trying to figure it out. But this is what I know, is that the X chromosome is what the Y chromosome used to be, because not only do you start off with XX growing, when you're born, you start off with XX, and so if you have the Y chromosome in you, that in the Y chromosome, there's a certain, I forgot the name of it, but there's a certain switch that happens that dictates if you're going to be a man or woman, but only in Y chromosomes that exists. I might be actually wrong on that. I'm not fully familiar with all this. Like, I'm just getting into it, so I'll definitely let y'all know to make sure if I need to correct myself. But one thing's for sure is that I know is that we start off as XX, and then it's either you stay XX or you go XY. So why I'm XY, I don't know. But one thing's for sure is it used to be XX before I was anything, before I was a man or a woman. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was just XX, like everybody is, right? So let's break down. There's something else here I want to show. Here, I want to show the chromosome diagrams, okay? So this is the, okay, so geneticists, they use diagrams called ideograms as a standard representation for chromosomes. Now, ideograms show chromosomes' relative size and its banding pattern, which is the characteristic pattern of dark and light bands that appears when a chromosome is stained with a chemical solution and then viewed under a microscope. So these bands are used to describe the location of genes on each chromosome. All right. So look at this one. This is the X chromosome. This is the X chromosome right here, right? And look how full that motherfucker is. Looking full as hell, right? Okay, so now let's check out the Y chromosome. Let's check out the Y chromosome. God, what happened bro? What happened to us? What happened to the Y chromosome? It looks like it's missing a few numbers, man. It looks like it's missing a few numbers. So what this is showing you, you see, this is the X chromosome, right? And then this is the Y chromosome, depleted. X chromosome full, Y chromosome depleted. You see what I'm saying? X chromosome full, Y chromosome degenerative. X chromosome looks full on the left, Y chromosome on the right, degenerative on the right. See what I'm saying? So, and then we might ask ourselves, what does this mean? You know, because I know that's what I ask myself. I go, what does this mean? I don't understand because I mean, is it just slowly kind of the Y chromosome, that is it slowly deteriorating? I don't know. You know, is it something that just happened one time and now it's staying that way? I don't know. I mean, I'm digging, but one thing's for sure is it damn sure wasn't that, right? It didn't start that way. And how we know that is because we know that when we're born, we start off with XX. So it doesn't start that way. Now, where the trigger lies, I couldn't tell you, but I'm gonna find out. Now, the first thing that I thought of, you know, when I started digging in regards to all this was, there's one thing that we all share that is given to us through our mother, and only our mother. Every single human being on this earth. That's why, again, I find it so difficult to understand that the three major religions that run this world, and you know, all the people that follow it, they follow a patriarchal system that without the woman, they wouldn't even exist. So for them to not hold the woman to her rightful place of appreciation is beyond me, especially when we know information like this. Like, this is not hidden information. And most importantly, something called mitochondrial DNA is what really struck me as, why do we not all know about mitochondrial DNA? Because, like I said, mitochondrial DNA, that is something that, again, it just reaffirms and sets in stone that nobody wouldn't have the information in their genes to even build a body if it wasn't for the woman. Nobody would have the proteins to feed the cells to even create your body without the woman. Because the woman's mitochondrial DNA is what helps feed your cells to create you. And without that, you don't exist. Mitochondrial DNA is the DNA located in the mitochondria, cellular organelles within the eukaryotic cells that convert chemical energy from food into a form that cells can use. Without the mother, your cells can't eat. Mitochondrial DNA is only a small portion of the DNA in the eukaryotic cell. Most of the DNA can be found in the cell nucleus and in plants and algae, also in plastids such as chloroplasts. Now, in humans, the 16,569 base pairs of mitochondrial DNA encode for only 37 genes. Human mitochondrial DNA was the first significant part of the human genome to be sequenced. In most species, including humans, mitochondrial DNA is inherited slowly from the mother. Solely from the mother. We have to understand that without that, we wouldn't have the complex bodies and cellular and physical structure that we have now. Since animal mtDNA evolves faster than nuclear genetic markers, it represents a mainstay of phylogenetics and evolutionary biology. So I'm gonna read that again. Since the animal mtDNA evolves faster than nuclear genetic markers, it represents a mainstay of phylogenetics and evolutionary biology. It also permits an examination of the relatedness of populations, and so has become important anthropology and biogeography. So the efficiency of mitochondrial DNA permits an examination of relatedness of populations. how you tie populations chronologically is through mitochondrial DNA, because you can actually dig farther back. You can dig farther back in regards to people and who and where they're from with the mitochondrial DNA as opposed to the Y chromosome. Now, the Y chromosome can only link to the father, but what comes before the father? The mother. Because without the goddamn mother made the father. Now, let's look at the origin. Nuclear and mitochondrial DNA are thought to be of separate evolutionary origin. Now, with the mtDNA being derived from the circular genomes of the bacteria that were engulfed by the early ancestors of today's eukaryotic cells, this theory is called the Endosymbiotic Theory. Each mitochondrion is estimated to contain 2 to 10 mtDNA copies. In the cells of extant organisms, the vast majority of the proteins present in the mitochondria, numbering approximately 1,500 different types in mammals, are coded for by nuclear DNA. But the genes for some, if not most, of them are thought to have originally been of bacterial origin, having since been transferred to the eukaryotic nucleus during evolution. Now check this out, y'all. Now, the reasons why mitochondria have retained some genes are debated. The existence in some species of mitochondrion-derived organelles lacking a genome suggests that complete gene loss is possible. The transferring mitochondrial genes to the nucleus has several advantages. The difficulty of targeting remotely produced hydrophobic protein products to the mitochondrion is one hypothesis for why some genes are retained in mtDNA. Now, colocalization of redox regulation is another, citing the desirability of localized control over mitochondrial machinery. Recent analysis of a wide range of mtDNA genomes suggests that both these features may dictate mitochondrial gene retention. Now, mitochondrial inheritance. In most multicellular organisms, mtDNA is inherited from the mother, maternally inherited. Mechanisms for this include simple dilution. An egg contains an average of 200,000 mtDNA molecules, whereas a healthy human sperm was reported to contain on average 5 molecules. So right there is telling you the information that comes through mtDNA molecules, well over 200,000 molecules. But then when it comes to human sperm, the Y chromosome sperm, that contains an average of 5 molecules. So the information is just vast. Now, the degradation of the sperm mtDNA in the male. Okay, let me run that back. Yeah, because I was in the middle of a sentence there. Okay, so now we were talking about the mechanisms for this include simple dilution, whereas a healthy human sperm was reported to contain on average 5 molecules. Degradation of sperm mtDNA in the male genital tract, in the fertilized egg, and at least in a few organisms, failure of sperm mtDNA to enter the egg. So the chances, well, let me just finish. Whatever the mechanism, the single parent, the uniparental inheritance pattern of mtDNA inheritance is found in most animals, most plants, and in fungi as well. So it's speaking to the fact that the mtDNA contains stronger information, which is why it correlates with the fertilization of the egg a lot stronger than the human sperm, which is the Y chromosome. The secretion of the human sperm through the male genital tract. So there is a stronger correlation with the information that is given to us from our mother side of her DNA, the mitochondrial DNA, as opposed to the Y. Now, what is this part here? So check this out right here. The fact that mitochondrial DNA is maternally inherited enables genealogical researchers to trace maternal lineage far back in time. Y chromosomal DNA, paternally inherited, is used in an analogous way to determine the patrilineal history. So it's not as efficient because it's more of an analog system of pulling on the father side, because you can't pull on both. See, that's the lacking again. That's the inefficiency of the Y chromosome, is that you can only find half the information, which is why hence they're calling it here analogous, is that you can only find half the information. It's not as automatic as the mitochondrial DNA, where you can find the mother's information, which is more information, which is more information. This is usually accomplished on human mitochondrial DNA by sequencing the hypervariable control regions. And sometimes the complete molecule of the mitochondrial DNA has a genealogical DNA test. For example, consists of about 440 base pairs. Now, these 440 base pairs are then compared to the control regions of other individuals to determine maternal lineage. Most often, the comparison is made to the revised Cambridge reference sequence, and they have placed studies tracing the matrilineal descent of domestic dogs to wolves. So literally, the only way we were able to trace the fact that dogs come from wolves was through the mitochondrial DNA of the fucking dogs. You know what I'm saying? So it's like how we get the full scope of information is by going to the library with the most books. And the library with the most books is the X chromosome as opposed to the Y. The concept of the mitochondrial Eve is based on the same type of analysis, attempting to discover the origin of humanity by tracking the lineage back in time. I'm going to say that one more goddamn time. The concept of the mitochondrial Eve, not the mitochondrial goddamn atom. It's not the mitochondrial atom. The mitochondrial Eve is based on the same type of analysis, attempting to discover the origin of humanity. Of humanity. Not no fucking, not no two people with no belly buttons walking the fucking earth. Because there is no walking away from mitochondria Eve. There's no walking away from mitochondrial DNA. There ain't no walking away from that. You can't. Because ain't nothing on earth didn't come out of a womb. If you're a person and you didn't come out of a womb, you're not fucking human. You're not from here. You're not from here. You're a lab baby. You're a fucking clone or some shit. You're not human. If you saw somebody right now walking down the street with no belly button, you would call them a fucking clone. But yet you revere Adam and Eve. Shit is fucking crazy to me. I'm going to read that one more time. The concept of the mitochondrial Eve is based on the same time of analysis, attempting to discover the origin of humanity by tracking the lineage back in time. The same way through matrilineal descent, we were able to find out that domestic dogs come from wolves. We were able to find their origin. From dogs to wolves. What you think we can't find the human origin through the mitochondrial DNA? If we can find out that dogs came from wolves through mitochondrial DNA, why couldn't we find that out about us? Why do we have to leave it to some guy in the clouds who made us with clay and people walking around with no belly buttons? Why do we have to start creating stories that not only do not make sense, but then it's like if you ask and question the person who believes in the story, even they get mad at you because they don't understand the shit. Why do we follow these things? It's because we don't want to think for ourselves. And then when you hear someone like me, you'd rather get mad at me than challenge what I'm talking about and go look it up yourself. You'd rather just get mad. You know? So challenge yourself to look this information up. If you are a Christian, a Muslim, or a Jew, look this up and ask yourself, why does your God's, number one, why is it just him up there? Where do they do that at? Where it's just dudes and then out of nowhere there's people. Dudes can't just make fucking people. You gotta throw some magic in there. That's the only way a dude can make people, is that it's magic. That's it. Why don't you just give the credit to the woman? Allah. Why don't you give the credit to the woman? Jesus. Why don't you give the credit to the woman? Yahweh. Huh? Or whatever the fuck they call the Jewish Jesus. Or whatever the fuck they call the Jewish people. Jewish God. Why don't y'all give the credit to where y'all came from? None of y'all will be on this earth without the woman. Yet you give all credit and reverence to a man. A man that can only contain about 5 molecules in the sperm when the woman got 200. A man that has, a God that has this depleted ass Y chromosome, while the woman got that. Huh? That's your God? Your Y chromosome God? Look at your Y chromosome God on the right. Look how powerful he is. And then look at the woman chromosome that I'm talking about. So you tell me. You tell me. And then go look at your mother, where you came from. You tell me that ain't your God. You tell me that ain't your creator. Go look at your mother who made you and go tell me that's not your creator. Hell, your father, he's part of it too. He's definitely part of that. He's definitely part of it. But you know who was holding the steering wheel? That X chromosome. Pops was in the car. Pops was in the car. But you know who's holding the steering wheel? Huh? You know who's pushing the gas and pushing the brake? Huh? You know who had the GPS? You know what controlled the GPS and the controlled the radio? The X chromosome. We just there to make sure the ride good. We're having fun too. You know, I take pride in making sure there's gas in the car, and I take pride in making sure the fluids are good for my moms or my girl, to make sure the cars are healthy. I take pride in securing their safety while they're driving the steering wheel. This is a team. We're a team. That's what X and Y is supposed to be. It's supposed to be a team. But I don't know about XY, but XX, if anything, I don't know what this shit is. I'm still digging. I haven't made my mind up. One thing I do know is that X chromosome right there is something more important about that chromosome. Because not only when I'm looking at it, I can tell it's important, but then when I read about it, when I look again, I can tell it's important. And I read, I can tell it's important. When I see statements like this, tracing humanity, the closest we've gotten, and the only thing we're using is mitochondrial DNA. That's what's telling me what's popping. That's what's telling me what's popping out here. So let's read a little further. Now, I pulled up this article right here because there's a few studies done, and they kind of cover a few topics that relate to this one specifically. Now, the Y chromosome may be a symbol of masculinity, but it is becoming increasingly clear that it is anything but strong and enduring. Although it carries the master switch, now that was that switch I was talking about earlier. Although it carries the master switch gene, the SRY, I'm gonna look that up. Oh shit, hold up. Don't tell me that's what that is. Hold up. Let's look that up real quick. The SRY gene. Don't tell me. The SRY gene. Okay. Yeah. We need to look this up. I'm gonna look this up some more. But let me get back to this article here. So now the master switch gene, the SRY gene, that determines whether an embryo will develop as a male XY or a female XX. It contains very few other genes and is the only chromosome not necessary for life. I'm going to repeat that. The SRI gene, it contains very few other genes and is the only chromosome not necessary for life. I'm going to say that again. I'm going to start all the way at the top. Although it carries the master switch gene SRY, that determines whether an embryo will develop as a male or a female. It contains very few other genes and is the only chromosome not necessary for life. Not necessary. That means we don't need you. That's what that means. Right? And we know that because XX, the woman, lives. And not only does she live, but she can create life. Can a Y chromosome create life? No. The X chromosome can create the goddamn life. So my point is this. Is that even if there wasn't no dicks in the world, the woman can still get pregnant. If there's no dicks in the world, the woman can still get pregnant. Y'all don't believe me? Y'all don't believe me? Y'all don't believe me? Watch this. Watch this. Watch this. Parthenogenesis. The definition. Reproduction from an ovum without fertilization, especially as a normal process in some invertebrates and lower plants. I'm going to read it again. Reproduction from an ovum without fertilization. That is self-reproduction. You understand me? So let's not act like XX cannot make its own babies if it really wanted to, because it's already happening. It's already happening. It's already happening. So that's why sometimes I say to myself, does this mean that at one point in time, everything was XX? And then if anything was XY, it was just because it was purposely done as opposed to randomly done. You see, now it's more of a random thing. Obviously now, scientifically, we can modify that. You know, scientists can go in there and play with your chromosomes now. But I'm just saying, like, without the scientists doing that, it's random. But I feel like it's random because we have lost the option of purposely doing it. So my point is this, is that I feel at one point in time, it was kind of like, you know, when you think of like a beehive. You see what I'm saying? I feel like it was like that type of concept. I honestly feel like it was that type of concept. That there was one bee, there was plenty of other female bees, but there was one main bee, queen bee, right? But yes, there was other males out there, but it's like it wasn't just about just having sex. Like sex was only just for reproducing, right? So it's like if you don't need to reproduce, then it's like sex is not a big deal, right? It's not something that you know, animals are looking to just do for their free time like we do as human beings. So my point is that I feel like it was more of a matriarchal, not only world, but even species maybe. And the males that did exist, I feel like they existed, but it was more of like a purposeful existence as opposed to a random one like now. Like now you don't know if you're going to get a boy or girl. But I feel that back in the day, or in some point in time, I feel like you could pick somehow. You could, it's like you could. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'll be able to maybe get it clearer the more research I do. But this is just what I'm putting together in my head. But like I said, man, the reason why I know for a fact that not only is it possible, but when it says to us that in regards to the Y chromosome, it's the only chromosome that's not necessary for life. You see what I'm saying? And women, they manage just fine. And if not only do they manage, they supersede. Like they thrive. They can fucking make other human beings. Like that's what I'm trying to say. Like what is a superpower if that ain't one? Like what is a superpower if that is not one? That you can make a whole nother human? Like, what type of shit is that? That shit is fucking, like, I feel like people want to talk about God, like that's a God. They just made a person. That's a God. You want to talk about a God? They just made a goddamn person. I don't know what else. I don't know what else you would call superpower. And then the only thing on earth that we know of like that, like the only human being on earth that we know of like that, we treat like shit. We have religions and we have all these levels and these organizations that don't revere them, that don't respect them, that don't put them um, at a level of respect. No one's saying put women on pedestals and just kiss ass and we need to be slaves to women. Nobody's saying that. What I'm saying is that we need to put them in the place that they deserve to be, which is a lot higher than us. And when I say that, I'm saying the point in the same respect that the way you look at your mother, the way you look at your sister, the way you look at your daughter, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't put them right next to you. They're not on your level. You don't roughhouse with them like you roughhouse with your homeboys, right? You don't talk to them like you talk to your homeboys. They're not on our level. So that's what I'm saying. We do put them kind of like, we got to put them in that little pedestal thing. Like, look, you're not higher than me, but I'm gonna treat you like an angel because that's what y'all are. I'm gonna treat y'all like the life bringers and creators that y'all are. But that's not what's happening in our religions. That's not what's happening in our politics. That's not what's happening in our everyday lives, in our entertainment. That's not what's happening in every level of society. We put our woman down, and not only do we put her down, we take away her credit, and then, see, I don't want to say we. I ain't doing that shit. These motherfuckers, they take away her credit. They create books about going to heaven and hell and say you got to go through a man, and man made you, man did this, man did that, when it all came from the woman. You see, this is the same attitude of white supremacy, and it's the same people who write these lying ass history books, same people that write these lying ass Torahs and Bibles. It's because the same type of culture, the same spirituality that they stole from Africa is the same power and energy that they're stealing from the woman. It's the same thing by taking her God attributes and claiming them as their own. And the only motherfuckers that I see doing that are Arabs, white people, Jews, white people, Christians, white people. That's it. Those are all Europeans. Those are all fucking Europeans. And if people don't understand that Arabs, I don't want to say Arabs, Muslims, a lot, no, I don't want to say Muslims. How do I classify those people? Middle East? No, I don't want to say Middle Eastern either. Because all those are just regions of places. So anybody can live in a place. I don't know what you call those people, just mixed people. Like, they're mixed. I just feel like it'll be dumb of us to call, number one, it's incorrect when you call the mixed people that live in Arabia, in the Arabian peninsulas, as Arabs. Because an Arab is not a people. Arab is a place. An Arab is a person that comes from Arabia. An Arab is not a race of people. And that's what I just come to figure that out recently. I used to call them Arabs too. And then I used to call them Muslims too, but then I found out that like 80% of Muslims in the world are actually black. They're actually dark skinned. So I can't call them Muslims because they're not Muslims. They're like I'm saying, they're mixed. They're mixed people. I'm gonna start calling them, they're mixed people that live in Arabia. They're mixed people that live in Arabia, and they're mainly European. And how I know that is because of their religion. Their religion follows the Jewish religion. Their religion, the first quiba, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right. The first quiba of the Muslim religion, quiba, which is the direction they pray to, right? It wasn't in Mecca. They were praying towards Jerusalem at first. Why are you praying towards Jerusalem? Well, it's because they wanted to acknowledge the fact that the Jews and them correlated in regards to spirituality, and they wanted to show them respect. The Jews didn't like it, and so then they made another quiba, and Muhammad told the people to start praying towards Mecca, right? And then if you think about it, and then if you look at another connection too, the slavery. The first religion that started taking the slave trade was the Arabs. And then guess who else took on afterwards? The Jews. The only the only the only people that conducted slavery and profited over it, the only people that conducted slavery and profited over slavery and are still profiting till this day are the three major religions that run the country today. The Christians, the Jews, and the Arabs. They all had their time of slavery and raping Africa, and now they're all benefiting and living like fucking champs today. If people don't know about the trans-Sahara slave trade, understand that took place before the Atlantic slave trade. So what we need to understand is the Europeans learned slavery from the mixed Europeans that we call Muslims or Arabs, quote unquote. So back to this. So women, after all, manage just fine without the Y chromosome. And again, the Y chromosome is known as the only chromosome not necessary for life. What's more, the Y chromosome has degenerated rapidly, leaving females with two perfectly normal X chromosomes, but the males with an X and a shriveled Y. Leaving females with two perfectly normal X chromosomes, but with the men we got an X and a shriveled Y. Just like that. If the same rate of degeneration continues, the Y chromosome has just 4.6 million years left before it disappears completely. This may sound like a long time, but it isn't when you consider that life has existed on Earth for 3.5 billion years. Now you see, whether this is true or not, I'm not sure. But like I said, one thing's for sure is this attitude is what I feel has created and encouraged and perpetuated this patriarchal perception and way of living. And it's like you just seize and conquer, right? That's all you do. Just you come beating your chest like a goddamn ape, and you just take what you want, and then that's it. It's like, and then someone else comes and kills you later, and then they take what you have, and so on and so forth. I feel that patriarchal attitude, that barbaric attitude, is because of these type of fears and phobias. I feel that white supremacy and Europeans do what they do because they feel that they will be extinct. They feel that they are degenerating, and I feel that the reason why they're doing that because they feel that they won't exist if they don't do what they're doing. If they don't systematically put themselves in power and keep themselves in power. If they don't make sure that we only have one black president, right? If they don't make sure that we don't own a bunch of Fortune 500 companies, if they don't make sure we don't own basketball teams, but we just play on them, if they don't make sure that we don't own schools, we just go to their schools, and our schools are pieces of shit. Like, do y'all see the pattern here? If these things were fair play and everybody could compete, then we would have more of an even demographic of not only power but even wealth. There would be a more balanced distribution of wealth if everyone had fair play in regards to economics, corporate world, politics, scholastic endeavors or opportunities. But if you look at it all across the board, it's all majority white people. Why? Is because they systematically put themselves and maintain the fucking power. And so, like I said, I feel the only reason why they do that is because of these type of fears, that they feel that they're going to be gone pretty soon. I feel that's why. And to be honest with you, any species who lives based on fear will do these type of things. If you think about it, like I can't think of one thing that the Europeans have done themselves and for themselves and independently. I can't think of one thing. From their very, from language to, to culture, to civilization, all of it somehow derives from someone else or something else, from their resources, from their wealth, to the clothes they wear, to the style of clothes, to the religion. I mean, you name it. It all derives from someone else. They took it from someone else. From the Catholics who literally wear yarmulkes, and they wear the papel hats where they used to wear it back in the days of Egypt. From the gold and the big thrones that they wear, and the big chains, the big pieces of jewelry, same shits in Egypt. From even the architecture, we even here in Washington, there's a phallus, a big phallus symbol that comes from Egypt. I mean, I can keep going with all the shit that has been stolen, and now people are acting like it's theirs. People like Jared Kushner, who walk around with the name Kush, and the etymology of that name derives from Africa. How is a white man walking around with the name of a place in Africa in his name? Why? It's because they stole the religion that was in that area, which is that Jewish religion, which now has been watered down, and now these so-called Europeans, they claim that they're Jewish, and now they have names like Kushner, which, like I said, it exposes the lie, because you can't call yourself Kushner and then say you're not from Africa. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. And so, and also for the person that I'm not going to give you any credit for this, but the person who keeps trolling me and wants to argue on social media, especially about the Kushner thing, the reason why I keep telling you that you don't know what you're talking about and you're uneducated in regards to your quote unquote counters or whatever the fuck you call it, is because you keep talking about things that came after the origin of the word Kush. If you talk about Germany, Germany didn't even exist back then. So how do we even talk about Germany? How can you say something originated in Germany when I'm telling you that the word came thousands of years before even Germany was even called Germany, let alone a fucking place? And then you brought up Hindu Kush, Indians. Who was naming strains of Kush? Who was naming strains of weed in India before Egypt or before Nubia? No one. Why? It's because there wasn't even any fucking language over there, let alone people naming strains of weed at that time. No one was doing that. So there's something called an etymology of words. An etymology of words is not only a chronological timeline of the words, but it also shows you the origin of them. So when you look at words, you can go to the etymology and it tells you where the word comes from. And when you look at the word Kush, it tells you that there's a place called Kush that existed in Africa a long time ago. So anything after is being taken from Kush. So if I'm named JP and anybody else, anything that comes after me that is named JP, they are taking it from me. It's not theirs. So whether German people said Kush or whether Indian people said Kush, German and Indian people came after Nubia chronologically. So no one can create the same word twice and didn't know that the other word existed. That doesn't make sense. There's only one word, and then people take it on and use it and correlate it to other shit. But there's something called a timeline. There's something called etymology, which shows you that timeline. So that's what people need to understand, is that if you're going to counter and if you're going to talk about any type of, if you want to give responses, give educational responses and add to the conversation. Don't take away. Don't talk about things that not only are irrelevant, but then when you're told they're irrelevant, you don't just admit it. You want to get emotional and you just want to argue. This is about building. But like I said, if you don't know something, I'm going to tell you you don't know anything and you're wasting my time. And that's one thing I'm not going to do, is sit here and go back and forth with somebody who doesn't know what they're talking about, who doesn't spend hours and hours on end researching, who only jumps on these social media sites just because they want to antagonize people who are doing something positive with their lives. So with that being said, the Y chromosome hasn't always been like this. If we rewind the clock to 166 million years ago, to the very first mammals, the story was completely different. The early proto-Y chromosome was originally the same size as the X chromosome and contained all the same genes. However, Y chromosome have a fundamental flaw. Unlike all other chromosomes, which we have two copies of in each of our cells, Y chromosomes only ever present as a single copy, passed from father to their son. So while everything else has copies in each of the cells, Y chromosomes only ever present as a single copy. This means that genes on the Y chromosome cannot undergo genetic recombination. I'm going to say it again. This means that the genes on the Y chromosome cannot undergo genetic recombination, the shuffling of genes that occurs in each generation, which helps to eliminate damaging gene mutations. So that's basically, in essence, just saying that the Y chromosome doesn't create a system of networking and creating almost like what's the word I'm looking for? It's almost like a new program, a new strategy in regards to eliminating the depleting and the deficient parts of it, right? And to restructure into a more functioning chromosome. Now, the X chromosome, it goes through this process of quote unquote genetic recombination, which is the reshuffling of genes, right? Which is eliminating the damaged mutations. So, unfortunately, the Y chromosome not only does not do that, but it would hold on to those mutations and give them to the son. So, whatever the father had, that's why the son usually has it, is because the Y chromosome doesn't go through the process of genetic recombination. Deprived of the benefits of recombination, Y chromosome genes degenerate over time and are eventually lost from the genome. I'm gonna say it again. Deprived of the benefits of recombination, Y chromosome genes degenerate over time and are eventually lost from the genome. So that's why a lot of times people think that the Y chromosome is just slowly degenerating, right? Because of this analysis. And so let's look at this. Let's look at the illustration of it. So obviously, it starts off pretty healthy. Looks like it starts off pretty healthy. Then we look at figure 2, illustration 2 and 3, and you see the degeneration taking place. And like I said, man, I'm so interested in why, right? Like what causes that and why? You know, since it was. I mean, you can tell that if we look at this. Oh shit! If we look at this image here, if we look at this image, we can tell what the Y chromosome once was, right? So that's what I don't understand is that what initiated this what initiated this master gene, the CRY gene? What initiated that master switch gene? That's what I'm curious about. Despite this, recent research has shown that the Y chromosome has developed some pretty convincing mechanisms to put the brakes on slowing the rate of gene loss to a possible standstill. For example, a recent Danish study published in the PLOS genetics sequence portion of the Y chromosome from 62 different men and found that it is prone to large-scale structural rearrangements, allowing gene amplification, the acquisition of multiple copies of genes that promote healthy sperm function and mitigate gene loss. So, a form of gene application. I mean, but is that still a level of preservation? No, I don't know. Just because it's amplifying itself doesn't mean that it's regenerating itself. That's not saying it's fixing itself. That's just saying it's if anything, it's like it's exerting more, if anything. The study also showed that the Y chromosome has developed unusual structures called palindromes. These are DNA sequences that read the same forwards and backwards, like the word kayak, which protect it from further degradation. They recorded a high rate of gene conversion events within the palindromic sequences on the Y chromosome. This is basically a copy and paste process that allows damaged genes to be repaired using an undamaged backup copy as a template. So it's literally like, yeah, it's just a copy and paste system. So it's just giving you the same thing over and over. There's no improvement. I guess that's not a bad thing, but it's damn sure ain't a good thing, right? Looking to other species, the Y chromosome exists in mammals and other species. A growing body of evidence indicates that the Y chromosome gene amplification is a general principle across the board. Now, these amplified genes play critical roles in sperm production and in regulating offspring sex ratio. Huh. Writing in a molecular biology and evolution recently, researchers give evidence that this increase in gene copy number in mice as a result of natural selection. So, on the question of whether the Y chromosome will actually disappear, the scientific community, like the UK at the moment, is currently divided into the leavers and the remainers. So some people think the Y chromosome is disappearing all the way. Some people think it's not. Like I said, I don't know. I just know it is depleted. Now, is it a continuous degradation? I couldn't tell you. I haven't dug that deep yet. But I know that it didn't look like the Y chromosome. It did not look like this at one point in time. It looked better than that. That's one thing we do know scientifically, that it didn't look like this. It didn't start off all fucked up like this. All right, so the next one. Now, this brings us back to the X-Men. Because I love this, man, is that, for me, that's why I do what I do. It's because this information and this truth is out there. All you got to do is pull it and put it back together. And I feel like people I didn't even realize it how, I can't, obviously, I'm going to have to give the credit to Stan Lee, but, he didn't write all these comic books. You know what I'm saying? He's got writers who provide storylines and this and that. They do the research. So, but obviously I'm gonna credit him because it's his platform. But it's just really impressive in regards to how some of these his stories they align so much to truths, right? And these hidden truths that we ignore, but they tend to influence every aspect of living. For me, specifically, where I started really respecting Stan Lee for his work, or at least, like I said, just the brand. I'll say that, the brand, because I'm not gonna act like this old man is still coming up with all these shows, man. That's not true. I'm not an idiot. So his platform, I definitely got to give him credit because what they did with Black Panther was incredible. Correlating Black Panther to real existing ancient African civilizations and cultures was a beautiful thing, and I love how they connected vibranium to which was the vibranium was the meteoric asteroid, the meteoric rock that came from space that gave him the powers. That's the same way with King Tut. He had a meteoric dagger. You know what I'm saying, and he was a teenage king. So he was powerful. I don't know what president y'all know was 14 years old running a place that had pyramids that no other fucking civilization or country can even create. So, I don't know what y'all call power, and I don't know what y'all call magic, but, with us, this shit was happening. These things are real. These things are real. And till this day, King Tut's dagger, the meteoric dagger, no rust on it. Thousands of years old, has no rust. Lord knows what these people were doing with that type of energy back in those days. Lord knows what the type of energies they were creating with those pyramids, or even why they had them, man. Lord knows that the information, the Kemetic science, the alchemy. Lord knows what they were doing with that type of stuff. So, like I said, and then for it to all come back around through Black Panther was beautiful. And now with X-Men, like I said, the truth has been staring me dead in my face ever since I was a little kid, entertaining me at the same time, but it was doing more entertaining than enlightening me, which is unfortunate. That's what these things need to be doing. They need to be educating us more than entertaining. That's why the entertainment field, the entertainment, that's why the West is considered the entertainment capital. This is the place to forget. This is the place of La La Land. This is the place of imaginary. This is the place of non-reality, of no truth. You know what I'm saying? And that's what's unfortunate, is that things like this, they pull from beautiful and very important, subjects and issues that control us all. But then instead of, like I said, instead of enlightening us with this information, all they do is just entertain us. You know what I'm saying? Like if X-Men ever talked about the X chromosome and why they're called X-Men, why don't they just call them Y-Men? Why is because the Y fucking chromosome is not that fucking special. It's not that special. That's why X-Men is not called Y-Men. It's because Y-Men is not that fucking special. But then, if it's not that special, then why is God a man? Why is everything a fucking man? Why is it's like it's such a barbaric type of outlook on like I run everything and fuck everything. I've never understood it. I've never understood it. And I'll say it again. I'm not saying women should run the fucking world. What I'm saying is they already do. But why don't we show them that they run this bitch instead of us trying to act like we're the ones that run everything? Why don't we show them that the only reason why you want to be rich is because you want to be able to have some fine ass chick to show off and have beautiful babies with? Because you damn sure ain't trying to get all that money just for you. And if you are, who you gonna spend it on? Who you gonna spend it on? Some groupies, right? Some dancers or some. You gonna spend it on some female. That's the reason why you got that nice car. You didn't buy that car to impress some dudes. You bought that car to impress a female. That's the reason why you go work out, bro. You work out because when a girl touches your arm, you want her to be like, oh my God, you so tough. You don't work out and do all that shit for that man or for any of your homeboys. You do that shit for you, and you do that shit for the female. For the female. That's the only reason why we do everything we do. What man, hell, the only reason why a man would even conquer shit is because they want to take over the fucking women and the land, and so they can procreate and make more. But you can't procreate without no woman. There is no civilization without a woman. There is no village without a woman. There's no community without a woman. You know, I read a really cool saying that it always sticks in my head. I'll never forget it. This one man, he had said in his book, he said, show me a nation's women and I'll tell you their state of mind. He said, show me your nation's women and I will tell you your state of mind. If you look at it, the state and the progression of the women in a nation, that will tell you that nation's state of mind. That will tell you the ultimate intent of that nation. So whether it's a village, it's a city, it's a town, show me your women and I will tell you how y'all think. Because your women will tell me how you people think. Are y'all nurturing people or are y'all barbarians? And so what I love about this X-Men right here is the X-Men is a team of fictional superheroes appearing in American comic books published by Marvel Comics, created by writer Stan Lee and artist co-writer Jack Kirby. I think Jack Kirby deserves majority of the credit. The characters first appeared in the X-Men in 1963. They are among the most recognizable and successful intellectual properties of Marvel Comics, appearing in numerous books, television shows, films, and video games. Now, most of the X-Men are mutants, a subspecies of human who are born with superhuman abilities activated by the X gene. Activated by the X gene. Not the Y gene. Activated by the X gene. And what do these people do when they're activated by the X gene? This powerful ass gene that everybody's ignoring? The X-Men fight for peace and equality between normal humans and mutants in a world where anti-mutant bigotry is fierce and widespread. Doesn't that kind of sound like what I've been talking about in regards to how women are treated? And what do? They fight for peace and equality between the normal humans and the mutants. Let's just say the mutant means that's the women. In a world where the anti-woman bigotry is fierce and widespread. Oh, shit. Hey, that's some real shit, boy, if you ain't seen it. Boy, that's some real shit if you ain't seen it. Where the word mutant is, let's just replace that with woman. The X-Men fight for peace and equality between normal humans and women in a world where anti-women bigotry is fierce and widespread. That is the issue right there. Right there. Oh man, that was sweet. That was the best part right there. So we see that Hollywood knows how special. Hollywood knows how special this is right here. See what I'm saying? Hollywood knows how special. You see that X right there? You see X, 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 Logan. You see all these X's. You see all these superheroes. They even got see Superman. He must got the X gene too, right? All of them. All of them. Deadpool, Hulk, all these people. All these people. Got this. Got that big X in them. That's what they got in them. That's who your kids want to be. They want to be this man. But yet, your kid doesn't know that this man is getting his power from a woman. That kid don't even know that the only reason why Logan is because of the woman gene. He need to be them kids need to be talking to the woman about getting that power. Fuck Logan. Why the fuck? Why I don't want to talk to Logan. I want to talk to the source. Fuck Logan. Logan ain't the source. Logan got juice from the source. That's why he's fucking all ironed up. What is it? Animanium, whatever it's called. That's why he's all ironed up. He can't die. Why? Because he was touched by the source. He got that X in him, right? Why the fuck would I want to be Logan? I want to get some X in me too. Take me to the source. Who's the source? Right here. Look at that. Look at that X right there. Look at all that X right there. Look at that. That's the source. On the left side is the source. So that's really all I got for you folks. You know, at the end of the day, we need to understand what it is. You know, Hollywood's making millions and billions of dollars off the woman from selling her, you know, having her naked, and now they're making money off of her chromosome, the idea of her chromosome. They make money off of her creating nature, her godly nature. They create Bibles and books over it. You see what I'm saying? This is the degradation of the X chromosome. But really the Y chromosome is the one that's physically deteriorating and degrading itself. How ironic is that? In all actuality, the Y chromosome is the one that's deteriorating and falling apart, while out here in life, the Y chromosome is breaking down the X chromosome in society, in religion, in nature, breaking down the X chromosome, milking her for all she's worth, making movies and putting dudes all over the place, making Bibles and putting God dudes all over the place, making countries and putting male presidents all over the place. It's sad. But like I said, folks, this is how we figure it out. You ask yourself, why do they call themselves the X-Men? What does that X mean? What does the Y mean? Which one looks healthier? What's mitochondrial DNA? What is the mitochondrial Eve? How come the concept of mitochondrial Eve is based on the same type of analysis attempting to discover the origin of humanity? That's not the mitochondrial atom. Parthenogenesis, the reproduction from an ovum without fertilization. Huh? Huh? Why don't we ask ourselves these questions? Why don't we ask ourselves these questions? Huh? That the Y chromosome is the only chromosome that's not necessary for life? Is that why it wasn't called Y men? It's because we're not that necessary for life? Is that why it's called Mother Nature? Huh? That's why it's called your mother country, your mother tongue? Hmm? It's not called the father tongue, father country. Because fathers can come and go. Your mother, you can only have one mother, man. There's a thousand more fucking dicks out here, man. The female, that womb, that's heaven. Heaven is between the dark woman's legs. Because without her, nobody would be walking this earth. So with that being said, I appreciate y'all's time. I hope y'all gain some knowledge. I take heed. You know, I do have an unorthodox way of looking at things, but I feel like that's how you need to come at. I mean, what is orthodox, right? Like, you got to think outside the box. And actually, I got a video coming real soon about that too. But you got to think outside the box. The reason why they say that is because what they put you in when you die, they put you in a box. What they put you in when they want to throw you in jail, they put you in a box. What do you watch all day that tells you what you do, and you go buy shit and waste your money? A TV, that's a box. If you think outside these things, you are free from them. It's because we are energy, and energy is not supposed to be trapped. Energy is like a fish, it's like a shark, it got to keep moving. That's what energy is. And when you trap energy, that's when you come up with computers and fucking phones and TVs and little mechanics, because you're trapping the fucking energy. That's why when you mess with the computer, it's getting hot. There's a bunch of energy in there and it's trapped in there and the shit's getting overheated because I've been working the shit out of the so much energy this thing has. Well, we are the same things. We are walking pieces of energy. And if you put me in a cell, you put me in a casket, you are trapping my energy. So if your mind, if your thoughts are in a box, it's the same trap. So that's why you got to think outside of the box. You got to live outside the box. You got to always be outside the box, because the box is where they want you in. Why are houses fucking square? Why? Why can't they be circle? Energy flows a lot easier that way. You got to think about these things. Most importantly, you got to think outside the box. Got to. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.